Hello, dear students of LH, SE, LS, and JS sections. This is a guideline to expository essay. By the end of this presentation, you will be able to identify the parts of a compare, contrast, cause and effect, and problem solution essays. Use graphic organizers. Write a proper thesis statement for each type. Identify organizational patterns. Use transitional words properly, and develop expository essays. In this session, we will shed light on the compare and contrast essay. Let's watch this video together, and then we will talk further about it.
We've got a nonfiction throwdown tonight as the authors of two articles on the very same topic face eviction from The Story House. Join us on reality TV's only show filled with your favorite writers and characters. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of The Story House. I'm your host, Sofia Romero. We've seen a lot of fictional characters and writers on The Story House, but tonight we're all about nonfiction. Two authors are facing possible eviction from the house. Both authors want to help you get better grades on your tests. Lynn Reddy wrote the article Ace That Exam, a guide to improving your performance on tests. She's up against Tipper Timerson, author of terrific test-taking tips.
Evicted? Me? Whatever could I have done? Look, before you vote, be sure to eat a well-balanced meal. Proper preparation prevents poor performance.
There's just one tip I need to give people who are calling in to vote. The answer is vote her off, not me. That's it. Plain and simple. Easiest test there is.
Okay, let's bring in the professor to break down this matchup in a segment we call Compare and Contrast. Professor, how should voters choose between two writers whose work is about the very same topic?
That's a great question, Sophia. We're really going to look closely to compare and contrast these two articles. We know what's the same about these two articles, the topic of test taking. They both share the same goal of improving your test scores. But when we ask what's different about them, we see some really big differences. Each article makes a very different point. Reddy helps students prepare for an exam. She gives health tips and, overall, focuses on the student. Timerson takes a different approach. She provides question-answer strategies and, overall, focuses on the test.
Wow! So even though they're about the same topic, each makes a very different point.
That's right, Sophia.
Well, there you have it, folks. Two articles on the same topic, but with a very different approach. And as always on The Story House, you decide who gets to stay and who is heading home. Voting lines open up just after this.
Well, when comparing and contrasting, there are always two sides, two characters, two thoughts, two items, etc. In this video, we can see two sides. What are they? Well, two books by two authors are being compared and contrasted. What is it about? Both authors, Lynn Reddy and Tipper Timerson, have written books on test-taking tips. What are the similarities and differences between the two books? Similarities. Number one, the topic. Both talk about testing tips. Number two, goal. To improve your test scores. Now, what are the differences? Number one, Reddy gives some health tips, and her approach is student-centered, while Timerson questions and answers strategies, so she uses questions and answer strategies. and she is actually test-centered, while ready is student-centered. What's the purpose behind this comparison and contrast? Well, the comparison or contrast should make a point or serve a purpose. Often such essays do one of the following: clarify something unknown or not well understood, lead to a fresh insight or a new way of viewing something, bring one or both of the subjects into sharper focus, show that one subject is better than the other. Now, let's check how to write a proper thesis statement for a compare and contrast essay. First, ask yourself some starter questions. These questions can help you later on write your thesis statement. The first question is, what two subjects do I want to compare and contrast? So you have to determine the two sides, the two items, the two people, the two characters, the two concepts. There should be two things you want to compare and contrast, and you need to identify the two subjects. Number two, why do I want to compare or contrast these subjects, or what's my purpose? You have to keep in your mind that there's a purpose behind your comparison and contrast, so you have to determine your purpose. And finally, to accomplish my purpose, what should I focus on? Similarities, differences, or both? Second, answer the starter questions. So for the first question, we can say, I want to compare and contrast the male adolescent brains to the female adolescent brains. Number two, my purpose is to explain why boys and girls behave the way they do. And number three, to accomplish my purpose, I would describe the likeness and differences between both genders' brains. So these are the answers of the starter questions. Third, combine the answers to your starter question into one sentence. Just put them in one sentence. It's not the thesis statement yet. I will write about the similarities and differences of the adolescent male and female brains because I want to explain to readers why teens behave the way they do. This is a sentence that contains the answers of the three starter questions combined into one answer. Now the last step, write your thesis statement using your starter statement, and keep in mind, a thesis statement cannot be a question, cannot be an announcement, cannot be too broad, cannot be too narrow. So this can be a good thesis statement, even though both the male and female brains mature at the same age. There are many differences in how teen brains develop which cause various behaviors. So now you got your thesis statement. Great. Transitional words. Sentences and ideas in an essay need to be connected properly. In a compare and contrast essay, there are some transitional words that can help you connect sentences and shift from one idea to another. Here are some examples. Connectors that show comparison or similarities. In addition, correspondingly, compared to, similarly, just as well as, likewise, same as, at the same time. Number two, connectors that show contrast or differences. However, on the contrary, on the other hand, even though, in contrast, although, unlike, conversely, meanwhile. So you can use all these transitional words to connect your ideas or sentences in a compare and contrast essay. If you are trying to connect two ideas that compare, so you use one of the transitional words in number one. If you want to make any contrast, then you can use words from the second list. Now let's do this exercise. Find the transition words in the following sentences and then decide whether they show comparison or contrast. Number one, regular cardio exercise does wonders for your overall heart health. Likewise, it contributes to the improvement of your mental health. These two sentences are connected by the word likewise. So the transition word is likewise. And this word shows comparison. Number two, both Leonardo da Vinci and Francisco Goya were both renowned painters in their respective eras. Similarly, Hieronymus Bosch was an accomplished painter whose works are still revered today. These two sentences are connected by the word similarly, and this word shows comparison. Number three, on the one hand, a career in the military earns one a lot of respect from everyone. On the other hand, soldiers tend to experience severe depression fairly commonly. These two sentences are connected by on the other hand. So, on the other hand is the transitional word or phrase, and this shows contrast. Number four, people who play basketball are generally quite tall. In contrast, gymnasts and jockeys are typically short. These two sentences are connected by in contrast, and this word shows contrast or differences. Now, comparison and contrast essays call for one of two types of development. When it comes to your development of the essay, there are two types of development. Number one is called one side at a time. Number two, the second one is called point by point. One side at a time. This is a sample outline that explains how you develop your essay according to this type. So you start with the thesis statement. For example, college requires students to study differently than they did in high school. So the first paragraph is all related to college. So you put all the items related to college. So for example, A, self-directed study, campus environment, heavy course load. Number two, the second paragraph. This contains everything about high school. So, more in-class time for study, fewer distractions at home, different course approach. So, in this type of development, you have all the items related to one, or all the ideas related to the first item are put in one paragraph on one side, like here, college has the three things all written in one paragraph. And the second paragraph contains the ideas or thoughts related to the second item put all together in one paragraph. When it comes to point by point, things become a bit different. This is a sample outline. College, was to start with the thesis statement, college requires students to study differently than they did in high school. In this type of development, what you do is getting the categories or the points, each in one paragraph, and you write the things related to the two items. For example, number one, the first paragraph, support for study. You talk about support for study in college and in high school in one paragraph. So the first aspect is support for study. The second aspect is study environment. The third aspect is workload. So here we're taking different aspects, and each aspect is developed in one paragraph. And here are some references and links we used in this slide. And finally, greetings from the author, Mr. Muhammad Al-Amin, and the coordinators, Mrs. Samia Abu Hamad and Dr. Lubna Naami. Thank you so much.